Normally, when we discuss wokeness in gaming, it's in regards to the writing, the story, the characters, the people working on the games, what they're saying and what they're doing. It's just very rare. This is, in fact, a unique situation where we're dealing with intrinsically woke games because the engines that they're created on have in them diverse, inclusive, and equitable requirements. It's very strange. It's a very strange scenario. So we have the Unreal Engine. For those of you who don't know the ins and outs of game development, the Unreal Engine is quite possibly, if not the biggest, I think it is in fact the biggest, third-party software going. Unreal 4, Unreal 5 that they're really trying to push right now. A ton of third-party companies use this very engine because it's easy to use, easy to customize for your own needs, wants, and purposes, and all the other competitors. Like a Unity immediately comes to mind, but a lot of those are quite outdated, and you can't be like a bunch of first-party companies that have first-party money, where you could be like Guerrilla Games with Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West, where you can just simply create your own engine from the ground up in the form of the Decima engine. It's like, it doesn't really happen. Capcom has a Resident Evil 4 engine, but I think Street Fighter 6 run on UE5. No, Tekken 8 runs on UE5. Capcom uses their own proprietary engine, but Capcom's gotten to a point where they've ascended from the doldrums of the mid 2000s when it was very much Crapcom, embraced the change in the market and had created enough wealth in order for them to have their own thriving engine. They tried that in the days when they were, just a little bit less than a reputable company. Coincidentally, at the same time, Square Enix was trying to push their stupid Crystal tools. Oh my god. But hey guys, we're going to have such great games like Final Fantasy 13 and the compilation of Final Fantasy 13. Those are all garbage games. But they're all run on proprietary software. I think Final Fantasy 15 is, because at one point in time it was supposed to be Versus 13. But we'd get stuck down a rabbit hole on this one. We're going to talk about Unreal Engine and the fact that their coding standards require video game studios to use inclusive language in programming and documentation. So you're telling me it's to a point where it's not so complete when it comes to you having to have a checkbox for your writing and for your characters. Now it has to be baked into the coding of a game. Holy man. Talk about not being able to read the room. In proving that identity politics have quite literally seeped into the very DNA of video games, Epic Games has taken to encouraging developers to use their popular Unreal Engine to employ inclusive language in their respective titles' programming codes. Oh, fantastic. And, well, when it comes to Fortnite characters, I have no idea, okay? But when it comes to goofy-ass CD Projekt Red, Fortnite runs, yes, on Epic software and Epic tools because it's, well, an Epic game, so yeah, that's all baked in. But CD Projekt Red being able to leverage Idris Elba for their, Cyberpunk 2077 reboot, I don't really know if that has anything to do with DEI in so much as, the CD Projekt Red in recent years has become a little bit too insufferable. I just did a video on their nonsense within the past couple of days. I don't really know if CDPR decided to hire Idris Elba as a diversity choice, but you could have found somebody that's a lot less expensive than one of the best actors going right now. So I guess it was just a black guy in video games that you just decided to use as a picture. Anyways, first added to the engine's official coding standards with the April 2022 release with its tool's 5th version, recently brought to light courtesy of its April 2024 update. Oh, so it's been there. It's been in there for a minute, huh? Interesting. This new inclusive word choice clause sees Epic Games encourage. Curious word choice, given that they consider following the said standards to be mandatory. Yeah, of course. Users to be respectful, inclusive, and professional language when writing or documenting a given piece of code. What the hell does that even mean? Word choice applies to the name, classes, functions, data structures, types, variables, files, and folders, and plugins. It applies when you write snippets of user-facing text for the UI, error messages, and notifications. It also applies when writing about code, such as in documents and change list descriptions. Cool, so all the backend stuff has to meet diversity quotas, even though it's probably a bunch of Asian guys that are plunking away at the keyboards on that. All right, then. To this end, Epic Games then provided guidance as to what words devs should and should not use to their writing. How in detail did you get with this? Do not use metaphors or similes that reinforce stereotypes. You're talking about gaming. And then, to just bring back the whole fighting game thing, a lot of those legacy characters, all of the, well, okay, I say legacy, you could say best and most iconic characters of the franchise, very much heavily rely on the stereotypes, or when it comes to one game in particular that I know runs on Unreal 4, to be specific, the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, you had a folder that said boisterous Barrett dialogue because he's a loud black guy. Would that not be allowed, even though it is accurate and fair to his character? Like, what are we doing? Examples include contrast black and white, or blacklist and whitelist. Oh, okay, cool. So you can't use, common industry terms. Fantastic. Do not use words that refer to historical trauma or lived experience of discrimination. So, common phrasing in coding, I know for sure. I've done a little bit of coding, very little bit of coding, but you often, examples include slave, master, and nuke. There's slave master programs that run in engines that run in coding all the time. It's interesting, right? Is that one of the new Star Wars games or something like that? So if you have a master or something like that, are you not allowed to have like a Jedi master text? No? Okay. Turning to gender-related language. Okay, Epic Games advises devs to refer to hypothetical people as they, them, and their, even in the singular. Also, compelling neo-pronouns. Somewhere Jordan Peterson is, no, what are you doing? You shouldn't secede that ground. Don't use the engine. Everything that is not a person as it and its. For example, a module, plugin, function, client, server. Well, yeah, I don't really know anybody that would refer to, you're working on this plugin. I don't really think that you would refer to it as anything other than it. It'd be weird if you would have gendered plugins, but game space is weird space, or any other software or hardware component, but having to say that, it needs to be its, but we're suggesting that you do this stuff, even though if you don't, it's a violation of TOS. Further, users are asked to not assign a gender to anything that doesn't have one. It's fantastic. You're not allowed to assign a gender to anything, and that you have to refer to everything as genderless. Cool dichotomy you set up there. Nor use collective nouns like guys that assume gender, but I thought guys was kind of an agendered phrase. Cool. And also take care to avoid colloquial phrases that contain arbitrary genders like poor man's ex. No, that's just Elon Musk's naming conventions for social media. But remember, this is all about things that you can and cannot say and do while creating something. So you're putting limitations on art. I thought that this would be like a bigger problem for lefties, but they went ahead and just completely disregarded any of their principles years ago. Regarding slang, the standard calls on devs to remember that your words are being read by a global audience. Not in the coding language. You could theoretically get in there and dig through all of the source data, drag it out if you're so inclined, but let's be honest. Audiences that may not share the same idioms and attitudes. Exactly. Look in a mirror when you're making these claims, because a lot of people, and by a lot, I mean 99% of people, don't share your same sentiments, especially when it comes to actual gamers, okay, and who might not understand the same cultural references. Avoid slang and colloquialisms, even if you think they are funny or harmless. Exactly. If you're trying to do something funny, that could theoretically offend somebody. All right, then. These may be hard to understand for people whose first language is not English, supposing that English is the default. I hate Western gaming so much and might not translate well. Again, to just run back the game that I'm going to reference, there's a lot of traditionally Japanese isms that are quite throughout the game. But you know what? It lends to the charm of the game. It's in the spirit of the game, and I wouldn't change them for anything in the world. I think that game is excellent from toes to titties. Just because I might not be familiar with traditional, Japanese customs or familiar with all of the aspects of planetology, that doesn't mean that that's being an offense that is driven against me. It's just the inherent superiority of these weirdo leftists that think that, we need to dumb things down for the non-English speakers that are out there because they're so troubled. They're so dumb. We just need to slow everything down from them. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's at least my opinion on this stuff. But yes, of course, devs are also warned to not use profanity, which, once again, Rebirth has some excellent uses of profanity. I'm just saying, man, it's such a tight script. Anyways, Continuing these standards, next ask Unreal Engine users to be conscious of their use of overloaded words. Isn't this entire breakdown? Can we just go with that? Many terms that we use for technical meanings also have other meanings outside of technology. Somebody on social media might be offended by a word, so don't use it. This really does run back to a hypothetical that Mahler, shout out to Mahler, had broken down, I think on an EFAP or it was on a stream. He definitely had spoke about this for sure. But he was in a conversation with somebody in regards to, I think it was the Joseph Anderson stuff. But regardless, it doesn't much matter. But the simple hypothetical that he posited is, okay, you're taking an offense with a certain word that I'm using. What if I am to say that the word toilet by this remote village is somehow the highest form of slur that you could possibly say? Would you, even if they didn't hear it at all whatsoever, stop saying the word toilet because somebody finds it offensive? Said person said, no, that's absolutely insane. Okay, so why are you taking, I think it's the word massive. If you watch EFAP, you know what massive means. By that logic, me simply saying massive, I'm not going to stop saying it because it doesn't mean anything. You're just taking offense to it. That absolutely absurd line of thinking that could theoretically demonize any word in spoken language is being entrenched in video game creation. Interesting. Examples include, yes, abort, execute, or native. Again, basic coding language. You use words like these. Always be precise and examine the context in which they appear. Ridiculous. Finally, the inclusive word choice clause closes out with some terminology that Epic Games believes should be replaced with better alternatives. Blacklist, whitelist, master, slave, and there's a whole bunch of stupid synonyms that they're providing. Yeah, deny list, block list, unapproved list. Yeah, that's so much easier than saying blacklist for a whitelist, the safe list, prefer list, approved list, master, primary, source, controller, template. Yeah, that's so much easier. And then slave. I don't know why they said black people. It's just so strange that they'd say that. Ultimately, Epic Games closes out the text of this new standard by assuring the public that they are actively working to bring our code in line with the principles laid out above. Yeah, but who's actually asking for this? Who wants to see this stuff? Who wants to actually have arbitrary rules put over the heads of creatives? It's enough already that we've seen the output of the Western game landscape when they have all of these arbitrary rules placed on them. We've seen the slop that they put out in recent years. So to go ahead and take this a step further, well, I'm just saying, take your entertainment choices abroad and just keep on doing what you're doing, because 2024 has been the great backlash against all of this propagandist nonsense. And these companies, if they're not realizing it right now, they're going to start feeling the squeeze very, very soon. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.